Have you ever felt stuck in life, like you just don't know what direction to go in? Today, we're going to talk about a plan to get you unstuck. You stay with me.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Living Imperfectly Perfect. I'm Fann Fitzgerald, a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach, and someone who's spent years trying to be perfect and failing a bunch. Through biblical truths and practical tools, I've helped men and women break free from anxiety, depression, and unfulfilled dreams and start walking in their abundant life. And now I want to help you. So slip on your fuzzy socks, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and take a deep breath. You're in a safe space where grace wins, truth heals, and it's more than okay to live imperfectly perfect.
Hey, my sweet friends, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Living Imperfectly Perfect. I'm really excited about this episode. I know I say that about every episode, but I am really excited because I feel like I have some really good information that I want to share with you. I think it will be helpful for you. And let me kind of tell you why I decided to talk about it today. So I was talking to one of my friends today, and this person was telling me they had two different options, two different paths that they could take in life, and they were trying to figure out which one was the best one. And I thought, you know what? When I counsel or I life coach, I have a plan to help people figure out what path they should take. Now, as a counselor or a life coach, I would never suggest a path because I don't know what's best for you. But this plan helps you figure it out. I thought after talking to this person, you know what? I need to share that with all my friends in the listening audience. So today I want to share this with you. If you counseled or life coached with me, this would be information that you'd have to pay for to get. Today I'm going to give it to you for free. So this is what I want you to do. First, let me say the Bible says Solomon, probably the smartest person that has ever lived or the wisest, says that without a vision, people perish. And what that means is a lot of times I feel like we go through life and we don't really know where we're going. We don't really have a direction. We don't really have a plan. We hadn't even really kind of formulated how we'd like our life to look. And so a lot of times I feel like we just kind of flounder along. I have certainly been there. I don't know if you have or not, but I'm betting that most of us have. So, point number one, what I'd like to challenge you with first is forming a plan for your life. Today, I'm asking you the question, what would you like your life to look like if it could look any way? Like the sky's the limit. There's no limitations on this plan. And so the way that I get people thinking about this is what I'm going to say to you right now. If I had a magic wand and I were to give you my magic wand and say your life can look any way that you want it to, how would your life look? I want you to think about that for just a second, and you'll probably come up with some ideas in one area or the other. Maybe you would say, I want to have a giant house, or I'd like to have a boat, or I'd like my children to come home for all the holidays, whatever it might be. But now I want to kind of make it more specific. I'm going to give you a few areas that I want you to think about how you would like your life to look. Now, I'm taking much of what I talk about today from my book that I wrote years ago, which is called As the Man Thinks, How to Change Your World by Changing Your Thoughts. I usually try to review this book every January because it's a good goal setting and really gets you thinking about where is my life now and where would I like my life to go. Because do y'all know that sometimes we need to just sit back and look at our life and see if we're on the right track. So today I want to share with you the areas that I want you to think about as I give you this magic wand. And I want you to consider the following areas. How would you like your life to look spiritually? How about physically? How would you like your occupation to look? How would you like your environment, your house, your car, all that to look? How would you like your family to look? How would you like your spouse to look? How about your health? How about your mental health? How about your finances? How about your children? And then I give you a space for other things, because there may be other things that you want to include that I haven't included. So I want you to really think about those areas. If you didn't get them the first time, you can either purchase my book, which you don't have to, or you can just review this podcast and write down the stuff. Go back, rewind. Can you rewind on podcasts? Maybe re listen, write the areas down. And then I want you to really sit down and consider, how would I like my life to look? Remember, Solomon said, without a vision, the people perish. And what usually happens is when we don't have that vision, we're just kind of floundering along and we're thinking, things just don't feel right. Everything feels worthless. What am I really doing? What's the purpose of all this? Well, I'm here to tell you there is a purpose for your life. You were created. I just talked about in Sunday school the story of Esther on Sunday, which I absolutely love that story because I think she's like an Old Testament superhero. But in that story, Esther's cousin Mordecai comes to her and says, Esther, perhaps you were created for such a time as this. And I'm telling you, you were created for this very time, and there is a purpose for your life. You were created for a reason. You just have to figure out what that reason is, what your passion is, what your goals are, and what you love to do so that you can start walking in that abundant life. So, number one, I give you the magic wand. You consider all those areas, and I want you to write it down. Studies say when we write things down, we have a better chance of achieving goals or going in that direction when we write those things down. So, number one, I want you to do my magic wand uh, exercise. And then, number two, what I'd like for you to do is I would like you to, after you get that all written down, two things that you can do. We want to kind of put it into either a picture or a narrative. So if you're like me and you love to write, you can write out a narrative. I would like my life to look. I would like a beach house. I would like my family to all get together. I would like whatever it is, whatever your narrative would say, from considering all those areas I gave you, you can write it out. The second thing that you can do, let's say you hate to write, you can do, which I don't know if you can see mine or not, but behind me, if you look on the wall behind me before the bookcase, you would see my vision board. That's the board that I have used magazines and even my computer to create visualizations of each of the areas that I did my brainstorming with my magic wand and created the ideal that I wanted for my life. Now I have that in visual form so that I can just look at the pictures and know exactly the direction in which I'd like my life to go. So there are two options that you can do. Either write out a narrative in a place where you can see it often, or number two, create a vision board up for yourself. Put on there exactly how you would like your life to look. Solomon said, without a vision, people perish. Now, the interesting thing about this is there have been some studies done, and I'm definitely not a quantum physicist. I'll tell you that. But I've read a little bit about quantum physics because it excites me and it interests me. And quantum physics has this experiment called the double slit experiment. And I hope I tell it correctly, but it's the gist is there are two screens set up. And on the first experiment that they do, they shoot something like a paintball through. So on the first screen there are 2 slits, and the back screen is completely whole so that we can see, like when you screen print, what the pattern's going to look like. So in the first experiment, they shoot something like paintballs through, and that forms the 2 lines that you would expect, the 2 holes. It kind of mimics those 2 holes on the back screen. Well, they do this experiment again, and this time they use like watercolor, like something that's primarily water based. And they shoot that through, and they're expecting to see the 2 slits like they did in the beginning. But this time they see something that looks more like a wave, where the water has kind of bounced off each other. So the 2 slits are not like that, it's more like a wave pattern there. And they call that an inference pattern. So then the scientists get really smart and they think, I'm going to use particles and see what kind of pattern particles form when it's shot through these little slits. So let me stop for just a moment and explain what a particle is. A particle is like the smallest part of everything. It's the smallest part of us, the smallest part of the world. It's one of the tiny building blocks of matter and energy. It's kind of like the dot of stuff, the smallest piece that physics talks about. And they're different particles like electrons, photons, and protons and neutrons, photons, atoms and molecules. So that's the particles that they shot through, different electrons, protons, etc., and even I think some atoms. And what are they? They're like the building block of everything. So they shoot that through. They saw the inference pattern. Actually, I think they thought that it would be the slit, and they ended up seeing the inference pattern, the wave pattern, when the particles were shot through. All that is very interesting. But then we take it one step further, and this is when it gets really interesting. So they had just seen these particles form the wave, the inference pattern. Then they shoot it through again, but this time they set up a recording device, like a videotape kind of thing, so that they can tape what the particles do. Do y'all know when the recording device is set up, it no longer forms the wave patterns, it starts forming the slits, just like when they shot the paintball thing through. So those particles, which remain the same in both experiments, form 2 different patterns based on whether they were being recorded or not. So there's lots of speculation about this. What the conclusion that they came to is that what changes the outcome is not so much the observer's opinion, at least that's what quantum physics feel like, but it's the act of measurement, the interaction between the particle and the detector. So while physics doesn't claim that the human being alters the particle behavior, the experiment does invite us to wonder, what if that observation, what if that recording device that changed the particle's behavior is actually sort of a metaphor for attention? When we give something attention, like Solomon said, when we have a vision, when we have a idea, a vision board, or a narrative, what if when we have that, it actually changes the outcome? There have been many studies to show that the simple act of writing down goals or writing things down improves the outcome of things actually occurring. So, what if reality responds to what we expect, like in the experiment, and the changes that we look for? If so, that just emphasizes how important it is that, like Solomon said, we have a vision. Without a vision, the people perish. We need a vision to shape our lives, especially if we want to walk in our abundant life and on our path to our abundant life. So that's my challenge for you today. This is part 1, step 1 of a whole plan that I want to give you. And so, first, what I want you to think about this week, to work on this week, is actually a vision for your life. I promise you that you were created for such a time as this, that you have a very special purpose for your life, that you have gifts and desires and passions that were placed into you by a creator, the creator of the world, so that you could walk out your destiny and so that you could walk in your abundant life. So, my challenge to you today is do part one. Then we're going to talk about part two. Next time I talk to you, probably next time, we're going to talk about how to get closer to those goals, how to make our life uh, walk out our vision and what tools. So, number one for your toolkit, magic wand exercise. So, you put that in your toolkit, work on that this week. And that's step one towards your abundant life. So, our time is up. We'll get to step two. The next podcast, I hope we are going to have a special guest soon. So, it may not be the next time, but in the next few podcasts, we will get to part two of how to walk on your abundant life. You do not want to miss it. So make sure if you haven't followed me that you follow me. And if you know people who need this information, and come on, y'all, isn't that all of us? I do this exercise every January because I want to make sure my life is following the path that I want it to. So if you know of anybody, because I think we can all use it, make sure you share it with them and encourage them for this free information to get them on the path to their abundant life. As always, I am so glad that you've been with me. I am for you, I am with you, and I love you.
Thank you, my friend, for spending a few minutes with me today. Remember, you don't have